Hello. I said, like, the second I hit stream, my eyes just started to go. I got something in my eye, and it's just like, so just give me 1 second. Hang on. I want to look at something. Just give me a second. Um, uh, Something about this corner that just sets you. You ever have that thing where there's like a corner in your house that just fucks you up? I said, just started streaming, and obviously because I'm on a schedule, you can't miss the event. You've got to a second that you I sat down and I got something in my eye and it just got flooding with water. So I was frantically trying to fix it. Should be okay. All right, luckily my lighting's good enough that you can't see like too much of it, so that's good. Okay. Thankfully there's a redness filter on this thing. All right, just give me 1 second. Okay, hang on. I've just got to I was just checking that the chat's working. Okay. So this one's just a quick chat because I had a conversation with my son this morning, and it was a bit interesting because I've said this a few times actually, where anyway, I'll warm into it, but basically, I find that a lot of a lot of it's related to the talks around working from home. Like a lot of this, it's kind of a LinkedIn sort of rant, but also just a general one because for those who know, I'm sort of going through some shit professionally, which is that I don't know like what my purpose is in life. And I know that, obviously having a purpose is a sort of luxury sort of thing where, everyone's trying to survive and that sort of thing. But, for the most part, I have, in good faith, I bought this hook, line, and sinker, this idea that if you just do the thing, that you work hard, that you go to uni, that you make all of the correct choices, that, there'd be something at the end of the road for you. But, and again, I know that there's people that are like, oh, life's not fair. And, those callous people that are just like, well, you made your choices, fucking lie in it. And it's like, well, I've been thinking a lot about like choices that I've made over the years and whether they were, like they were choices that I made in good faith at the time, but with time turned out to not be the like best choice. There's all of these stories about, that again, a lot of it is because, you internalize a lot of these things, but, this idea that women can have it all, that, we have rights, that, if we just get an education or if we just work harder, even if we work, even if you see things the way they are and go, well, you're going to have to work twice as hard as a man, you're going to have to work, really hard to, because you're not neurotypical, you're neurodivergent, all of these sorts of things. Even if you're going to have to work harder and that you're facing a, that it's challenging, you want something to be there at the end of it. And I think I've been in the middle of not being clear, what's at the end of this for me. Like I'm sort of, it's, and I know that this is, again, it's probably, cost of living, but, like those people who are lucky and financially secure, middle class, have never really had to think about these things. You might see this as navel gazing, but for those of us who have done all of the right things, do feel that they're kind of owed at least, I'm not even saying that I'm owed like much. I'm saying that, you work hard, you get this thing, you try to be a better person, try to be a smarter person, you try to learn lots of things, you operate in good faith, and that things will work out for you. And I know that that's, or that there will be some sort of answer at the end of it. For me, all I see is like futility. I see a future where it's like I got no, like, anyway, so my advice, I sort of, it started with an interaction with my son this morning, but obviously I've been thinking about it for a while. And, like he's a good kid, but if I don't talk about my private life, but, I am divorced. I had, my first marriage was something where we were not compatible. He wanted somebody who was a sort of housewife, domestic housewife. He grew up with a clear, again, hindsight's 2020, right? You know these things, okay? Hindsight bias. But when you look at choices that people make, people obviously make choices for different reasons, but they are the sum of their experiences and their environment as well. And this is part of my frustration is the lack of compassion and the lack of understanding around why people make choices. And I thought that I'd say, well, my advice for women I'd use that sort of, like one of the things that I say to like young women in tech. And I remember this interaction. I've talked about it before, but I remember this interaction with a young Indian girl who was just graduating with cybersecurity. I was at a Women in Tech event, and the usual thing. She was a sweet thing, and she said, what would your advice be for someone starting out in tech as a woman in tech? And I said to her, don't have children. And I know that sounds like a terrible thing to say, but it's actually the truth. Okay. It's my truth. And it is one of those things where you can't really talk about it because for some reason, again, like anything, you can't talk about one thing without everyone making it about another thing. But, obviously in hindsight, you go, well, you don't have to say, I love my children. You don't have to say that, you don't have to qualify these things. But, if I was in a position to choose my future now versus, I think that this is like this big lie stuff. This idea that every choice we make is a conscious choice, that every choice we make, we understand the consequences of that choice, like, 20 years into the future, which we don't. We make choices with the information that we have in front of us. We make decisions and we say things and we behave ourselves and everything that we do, we are the sum of our their experiences and history, but it's also an ongoing and evolving process. And, I think it's okay to say in your 40s when your kids are older and go, you know what, if I could go back and I wanted my career, I maybe would not have had kids. That's not the same as saying I wish my kids weren't here or I didn't exist or that I resent them somehow. It's like, no, that's just something that you can talk about honestly and say, you know what, in the current situation, this is the difference between seeing things as they should be or seeing things, through a sort of ideological lens or seeing them through, all these things versus seeing things as they are and, in a quite pragmatic way, which is that all things being equal, if I knew what I knew today, I would not have had children, okay? I wanted a career. I wanted freedom. I wanted to leave this city, okay? I've talked about a lot how I fucking hate it here, okay? I hate this country, I hate this city, and I want to go, okay? Because there's no opportunities for people like me. This city is fucked. And I think maybe it's just in my mind a lot more because I'm noticing that sort of, I've been aged out of an industry that I thought that I was a natural fucking choice for because I'm a leader in. And because I didn't go corporate, I decided to make all of these choices, okay. I thought I could make it work and it turns out that I didn't, okay. That's just the fact, which is that, if you understand a big part of my history and story, which is that, I was going to go through this traditional sort of policy government, I was going to go through that traditional career process, but then I sort of became something on the internet. Okay. And I decided to go pro because I started to build connections and I started to have skills that people wanted and there was demand for those skills. Okay. And I built those skills. I had built a craft over years of, community management and design and, all that stuff. There's nothing digital that I don't know across or, can't learn in 5 minutes. It's just the way, over time, that's what you do is you pick up skills. But I've always thought about how I wanted out. And, I did try to leave and I tried to go and I tried to get out of this town. But unfortunately, we're also anchored by some of those sort of other complicated choices that we make, which was when I was, I grew up in an environment where as a child I was a kid of divorce. I was raised by my grandmother. It was not a good environment for me. And so, my sister and I was always like, I was a bit arrogant, like as anyone. I thought I was better than them, yeah. But I grew up in a family that was like, "What do you think? You're better than us." Every time you like read a book or did anything that was remote, but that that scales to Australia. That's an Australia thing, but it was a particularly big problem in my family, which was that you didn't dream and you definitely didn't communicate the fact that you had goals or dreams. And any time that you did say that you had goals or dreams, you would get made fun of, or all that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. And I also had, like my sister got pregnant with twins young, okay. And so what I did was I kind of positioned myself as not that, okay. And so, but then I met my high school boyfriend, okay, and he sort of latched on because some of his choices, his parents got married and they met as teenagers and they stayed married, and so his formative experiences determined his worldview, which was that he was going to meet his future wife at school and that she was going to fulfill this certain role. And I show up, I married someone who really, should have been a 6-month friendship at best, okay? And we kind of just went into it because I decided that getting married was the right thing to do, having security was the right thing to do, and then obviously having children was the next step when when you get married and all of those sorts of things. And I never really had time to think about what I wanted. Okay. And I was always wired for professional shit and career shit. He wanted somebody who would stay home and look after the children. And so when you look at my career and the things that I did, I was always just trying to carve that piece of myself for myself. And so, it's not just, and this is why that work from home debates, nothing is a fucking debate. There's no debate when you're an employee. Okay. You show up or you get fired, and you do what they say or you get fired. There's no fucking, like, this idea that working from home is a fucking debate for anybody. Get fucked. But it is something that's quite close to my heart because, if not for the internet, if not for, the ability to work from home, if not for the ability to have international clients, if not for the ability to build skills in that respect, I would have been relegated to this idea of like, it comes back to the early stage of my career where, when I first graduated, because, I was not a fucking middle class like kid. I was always trying to survive, still am. But, I was trying to, I was juggling I'd get 6-week, as a graduate, you juggle sort of short-term contracts. Unless you are someone, again, this is where class comes in. If you're connected enough to get yourself a job straight out of university, you're doing pretty well for yourself. For the vast majority of people and, poor kids, I not only had to cobble together my degree with, less marks than I thought than I was capable of, because I was working 2 to 3 jobs to get through university in the first place. Law, there's kind of always just this anchor that's pulling you down, pulling you down, it's pulling you down, it's pulling you down. Okay. Pulling you back all the time. And it's like being smart and working hard is just not enough unless you address sort of those systems that are constantly pulling you in certain directions, right? So, but early in my career, like I graduated with, an arts degree, a hard fucking, people used to make fun of arts degrees, but that was a hard-fought arts degree for me, right? Because I wanted any degree to get through because I was trying to, get out of my situation. And, I was with somebody who didn't want me really studying, didn't want me doing anything sort of for myself. He didn't really want me to achieve anything other than he wanted me to think that having kids and a domestic life was enough. And, it was always just my business being treated as me dicking around on the internet. Okay. And it's like, well, eventually that business became a fucking family supporting business, and I became a sought after designer, and I became a sought after, all those sorts of things. You know what I do. But, this work from home thing, this idea that like, if not for being able to work from home in those early years, I would have been forced to work in some low paying, low grade job, which I was doing. I had a few different 6-week contracts. Okay. I had a few different, month that they were short term, or they were casual, or they were whatever. Okay. Because basically, I'd had the baby, and I had to go, and she was often the first kid to be dropped off at daycare, and the last kid to be picked up because I was working and commuting and doing all that stuff, and also just, just so many different things. And I, working from home, I tried to I carved this career for myself that somewhat felt like a win-win. Okay. And so, but at the end of the day, I was still meant to be a housewife first and a mother first. And, it's interesting now because obviously my kids are older and my kids grew up with me working at home, and they grew up with me, having this world that was in my computer that was outside of them, and they don't necessarily have visibility on what that world looks like. Okay. And it's really interesting because that interaction that I had this morning was with my son, because Bethesda have launched Starfield, and there's been a few really good launches and that sort of stuff, right? So they're advertising these things, and so I was talking to him about it, and I was just talking about some of the business stuff, and and he just turned around, he goes, "I'm just trying really hard not to mansplain you right now," and I was like, "Well, you would be, because." I actually know stuff about the tech industry, and, he's like, "Yeah, but you only know the internet." And I said, "Well, no, I actually do know quite a lot about this stuff. And, when you were younger, I actually gave up and it reminded me of the time when I gave up a job working at Microsoft to come back to Perth because I was feeling the pressure to come back to be with the kids after my divorce. And that was something where I was just like, well, and we had a little conversation about it, and it's not a big problem. I don't use that. I'm not someone who weaponizes it. But at the same time, it is really interesting, as your kids grow up, you start to sort of hear how they see things. It's can be confronting, but for the most part, I'm, aware of it. But, after my divorce, because I've always wanted the tech career, I've always wanted to, I've always just loved tech. I've always wanted to be a leader in tech. I've always wanted to create products. It's something that I just love doing. I love solving big problems. I've always had otherworldly dreams, but I live in a city that is like, what do you think? You're better than us? Fucking, it's bad enough. In a family that was worse than that, in a country that does that. But also there's not really, where tech has been overtaken by people who are, upper class. They're fucking, they're all rich kids. They're all people who have no real sense of what we've built and the kind of things that we've actually created. And this is my frustration with, because I also understand the work from home argument against it, because I hate being stuck at home. It does have other side effects that people don't necessarily think through, but it's something I know quite a lot about because I've lived it. I have tried to carve myself something that I could make work, okay, because I was kept having children, because I had children, okay. Then I got divorced. Now, I'm not going to talk about that part because obviously that's not something that I, want, I've learned the hard way to not do that. Right. But I just want to talk about this a little bit because I think it's okay to say, you know what, I shouldn't have had kids. I think it's perfectly okay to say that because, first of all, the kids don't care. I asked him if it was okay and whether he ever felt like, and of course not. But it's just, I think having a conversation about that. And if I can stop some young woman, especially with all this bullshit that's coming out of the fucking, lunatics and the right at the moment about how, women should be just having children and how blah, 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 all that shit. Okay. I don't think that people because again, I'm the child of somebody who shouldn't have had children as well. I understand this. Okay. I understand how it feels to be a child that wasn't wanted. Okay. And to be someone who had children and maybe shouldn't have because they idealized what it would be to be a parent. But that's also when you sort of, when you want to, I'm saying this is why it said my advice for women in tech is don't have children. You got to really think about this stuff. Which is, it's not so much about having children and a career. You're going to have to make choices, okay? You're going to have to choose between 16-hour days, which is the norm in tech, and your children, okay? You're going to have to choose between your children and your career. And whether or not you like hearing that, Like the thing is that, there's people who are early in and they're like, I'm 10 years ahead of everyone else because I started my business earlier than everybody else. I started the win-win earlier than anyone else. Okay. And the reality of that is that 10 years out from that, 20 years out, you'll be behind. Okay. Now I'm in my 40s. I'm trying to apply for things that maybe I'm interested in, not so much that I don't know if obviously I'm not really fit for corporate anymore, but I'm seeing it, which is that something that I would be a shoe-in for, and I know I'm a shoe-in for, you're getting discriminated against because you haven't got that linear corporate, like, pattern of like employment, right? They want to see you work for 2 or 3 years at all of these places and they want to see a progression. They don't see this, that somebody who has like felt pressure, who's made it work. They don't see that. What they said, they just don't see it, right? And so it's just one of those things where, hang on a sec, I can see some chats. So Matt, saying I shouldn't have had kids doesn't deny that. Yeah, of course not. So saying you shouldn't have had kids doesn't deny that you love the children you do have. No, and I think that it's okay to talk about that, especially when we're talking about divorce, especially when you're talking about things like shared care, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, women get seriously discriminated against a lot of the time because they dare to have kids. But yeah, it's also, I think another thing that's unique about my story is that, again, not talking too much about it out of respect for my kids, but, I was forced into a position where I had to come back here because let's just say the divorce courts favor the incumbent who was willing to make bullshit claims about whatever. But, if I wanted a relationship with my children, I had to stay here. I had to stay put. And staying put because I was, he basically just wanted me to leave. He wanted me out of his life and I refused, right? And so I just came and stayed put. That's been my experience with being a parent. But that had a cost to it, that was why my interaction with my son actually sort of made me think about some of these issues, because, he didn't know that I was on, I had to turn down a job with Microsoft in a senior role, and I was going to be probably working with the Xbox team, and that was, early. This was what, gosh, yeah. Anyway, whatever. I went through oh my God, 6 interviews. My God, their interview process is balked as well. But again, eventually that's just part of it. But and it's like, well, you do know that I actually was turned down for that role, and I came back, and I didn't want to say for you, but because you don't say it. It's not one of those things, obviously, but the subtext is there. It's like, well, did you not know that I actually turned this down to come back? I turned down a job with Adobe, turned down a job with Bright. I was looking at a few different things when I decided to come back because I couldn't deal with because I thought I could make it work bi-coastally, and at the end of the day I just couldn't. So, because it was just not. I was not going to win over you. Okay, if you've gone through the family court, they don't look too kindly on interstate parent. They look at that as they just don't look at it that way. And regardless, okay, so I tried to have a career. I tried to get my options. I tried to do the right thing. And, I left for a couple of years, tried to make that work. Love Sydney. But I'm stuck here. And that's just the reality of my situation. And it's only because I've now started to put my toe back in the water, thinking about what the fuck I want to do with my life. Is that hang on a minute. Yeah. They do benefit from a stay-at-home parent, but I'm saying that work from home actually I had a win-win situation there. That's what I'm trying to say. So, for a while there, it was actually like win-win. Like the internet became this vehicle for me to work from home, but also be home with my kids and sort of work to my own schedule. I mean, I worked long hours, but I was my own boss. Like I'm the most, socialist. I think that the closest thing to living as a socialist under a capitalist system is to be your own boss and to be self-employed because you own your own labor. So I can choose when I work, I choose my rates, I set my rates. Clients are annoying. Yes. Business is annoying. Yes. All of those sorts of things. But, you have more autonomy when you're self-employed, so long as you have access to the internet and you have access to certain things. There was a brief window there where we had access and and the world opened up to us, and I did that. Like, I had a lot of work in the entertainment industry. I had a lot of work. I had lots of sort of famous LA clients and TV clients and all those sorts of things, and rock stars and non-profit organizations and all that stuff on the books, even though I was running a business out of Perth. And that seemed like the perfect sort of ideal, up until I started to see that there was this sort of corporate shift that occurred where people started to see someone like me who worked for myself. And again, this comes back to sort of some of the other agency stuff where what you would see is these sort of solo operators who were working out of their house, but they were pretending not to do that. So what they were doing was, hiring like virtual officers. They were using free interns to inflate their staff numbers. And what they would do is over time, you gradually end up outbid by these guys that were basically in the same position as you, but they were willing to lie about like who they were. So, they would talk about themselves in the plural. They would, make it look like they had, a staff of 10, but they'd be using unpaid interns and giving them bullshit job titles and, inflating it and calling themselves like an agency. Okay. And but then you'd see them, they just would misrepresent that. So over time, you'd find clients that would just go for those guys who were just salesmen who were lying, and they just they'd sell them hard and then not deliver. And that was the sort of gradual shift in the industry. So then over time, we sort of got shoved. People who were just happy on their own as a consultant, working deliberately for themselves, because I don't like managing staff. I can. I'm a good manager, but I don't like the overhead and the responsibility that comes with that, and liability and all of those sorts of things, right? It's not really how I like to run my life. I like to run my life free. I don't want to be someone's boss. I can if I have to, and obviously I'm good at it, but it's not something that, I would seek out in an ideal situation. I always had this idea of being just cooperating and working with other solo people and on projects and sort of bidding together. But over time, you saw that where the tender process, they would just instantly exclude you if you weren't a team of, 20 plus or had, all of this sort of corporate backing. They would. I mean, the number of times people would just come to me to fix shit when it was broken, but they came to me after they had gone to someone else who made them promise after promise after promise. And I said to them, they're not going to deliver. And then they go, oh, no, but they've got more people than you. And then, so there was this gradual thing where they saw people like me as a less than. And there's been a creep in that. So there's a creep. So it's not so much that it's like, it's not something that happens overnight. And this is why a lot of these women that I see on LinkedIn and stuff, where they're still thinking that they can juggle kids and a career. And it's like, well, no, because eventually you're going to realize that, over time it erodes and eventually you're behind. Okay. And so, I've thought about like reaching out to a few like companies that I might be interested in working with. I'm not really an employee, but it's like, well, let's just let them know. And Twitter's one of those, okay? Like this morning you saw that like Musk said that he's hiring a VP of propaganda. And I'm like, well, I would love that kind of role because that's something that I've been specialized in for some years now. But the fact is that I know that on my CV, I am someone who just made it work. I work from home. I cannot move. I can move, but the money would have to be so good that, and I'd have to, like, that's just the fact. I'm stuck here. And I mean, it's just, it's disappointing, but it's just, it's just interesting to think about the fact that, that real shift that happened where everyone was like, there was a thing with digital nomads some time ago. where, freelancing and, it was the life, go and, uh, become a solopreneur and travel the world. And I mean, I wanted to be a digital nomad. I thought that'd be amazing, right? I still would love to. I'd still love to just get our laptops and just remote work and just travel everywhere around the world. That would be amazing. But you can't do that with kids, or at least until they're older, right? And it's just, but, over time I've seen those those opportunities just sort of fall away where it's not even, and, and this is the problem, I think, with men in tech in their 40s, which is they go, oh, well, it's merit. It's like it's not an equal footing. It's not an equal playing field. It is not, because I've had to just sacrifice. Like if I'd taken that job at Microsoft 10 years ago, then, or not about that, yeah, about 9 years ago, if I'd taken that, then I wouldn't have, sorry, what was 2015? Whatever, anyway, 8 years ago. It was 9 or 5. But if I'd taken that, then I would have, lost my children. If I had taken that, I was forced back. But the thing is that, like, it doesn't mean that I wasn't able to get the job, and it doesn't mean that I don't have the skills, and it doesn't mean that I don't have the knowledge. It means that I was stuck in a certain position where I couldn't take that particular role. Like, having a particular role is not, doesn't mean that you're deserving of that particular role more than anybody else. It's just that you're in the right place and the right time and the right fit for that role. And part of that is the ability to actually show up and work 12, 13, 14 hours a day at the office. Like, that is a position that most men take for granted. Okay. Sorry, my coffee's a bit, because I put protein powder in it. But men take it for granted that, that they just, that you just can show up to the office. I've never been able to show up to the office. My son's autistic. He can't leave the house, okay? I have to be home for him. I have to be home. Someone has to be home with him in the house. Now, he's getting to the point where he's old enough now, okay? But for a long time, I haven't been able to, and it's not, I'm not blaming him, but I'm just saying that I have to be here. Okay, I remember, and this made me laugh. There was an incubator here where I came up. I've got like so many products, so many things, no money to implement them. But, if you want an idea, I've got them. It's not a lack of knowledge, but I finally got picked for some incubator fucking thing, right? And they turned around and they were basically, and it was school holidays. And I had my, my business plan and all of the fucking pitch and everything like that, the usual stuff. And I won it, and it was basically, we're choosing like 5, things to, this, what, I'm not going to go into what an incubator is, but basically, they choose people to mentor and tap into resources and all that sort of stuff. But you had to go to an interview and to, progress to the next stage. And they said, well, you've been selected, but you got to come in tomorrow. I said, I can't. It's school holidays. I don't have a babysitter. I have an autistic son. I need to prepare him for this stuff. I can't just get up and walk out, or, I can't just bring them with. I can't do those things. I need an extra day's notice. And they said, oh, well, too bad, and out. And that was somebody who I continually see talking about women in tech like he's fucking woke as shit. It's like, well, no, you didn't accommodate when it counted. But yeah, okay. So Jim can, like, the mansplaining in my chat's annoying me. Hang on, let me have a look. I know the reasons they shied away from me. Okay, but it's not you don't have a means of being infiltrated. It's not like that. That's silly. Okay, it's a silly thing to say. This business, this is where you go into conspiracy brain. Okay, it's not like that. It doesn't work that way. But hang on, so let me go back to Matt. So in my experience, the parent who loses in the family court is the one who gets her kid's age wrong to the judge. This is the thing that happened. Yeah. Well, I was the victim of this is one of those things where it's like I sympathise with the men who say that they've been victims of the family court. But I also, understand that that it can be weaponized as well. And kind of, again, I always seem to just I fit nowhere. I always just go, oh yeah, I understand that point. I understand that point. I understand that point. I understand too many perspectives. I don't just go off and going like I'm not capable of tunnel vision, unfortunately. Oh, Slurian's here. Hello. So men are rarely asked how many kids they have, asked to account for the time taken off to raise kids, or asked about their future plans for kids. Yeah, absolutely. But even just, I mean, I could rant about this forever, but it's just one of those things where I try to keep. I don't like to, obviously, it's precarious, the relationship with my kids when you've been in divorce and you are also fucked over by an ex and it's not in your favor. You're not just fucked. You're not just. Your relationship with them is because they also internalize norms around that, why was my mum the part-time parent? Okay. They internalize that stuff too. And it's like, no one ever asked that. When you're actually the part-time weekend parent through no fault of your own, other than just trying to do the right thing, and then being fucked, it was, it's a delicate situation because they've got that baggage too, right? They've got that baggage trying to date men who have children, dating them, and they go, well, what's wrong with you that you don't have your kids? And I'd go, what's wrong with you that you don't have yours? What the fuck? Shut the fuck up. Like that kind of thing, right? Because I was the career one. I was working all the time. I was working around the clock. And my ex-husband got injured and he was on thing. So it made sense at the time for him to be the caregiver and me to, and he just unfortunately decided to rewrite history and rewrite all of that stuff. And that happened. And that's okay. But the thing is that children internalize those things as well. Only children who, again, because I'm, my mum's role was to be my carer, it's like, well, they internalize that stuff. Everyone does. We all do. And unfortunately, when you push back on that stuff, I mean, other women are the harshest when it comes to this stuff. I could talk about this for a long time, but I try not. It's not something that I think is it's worth relitigating. But at the same time, it's something that annoys me about feminists, okay, who they still believe that women's default role is as a carer ultimately. Because, the thing about the family courts is that their default role is that mum is a carer, even if mum, you get what I'm saying? No matter how you spin it, which is that, okay. So you're actually distracting me with this chat. So I'm trying to just talk about other stuff. So anyway, actually, let me just. Okay, I'm not I don't have tunnel vision. I talk about lots of different things. So but anyway, I'm talking about something else, and it's also a bit more personal. So CIA, fucking boring bullshit. I know about. Assume I know what you know. Okay, we've got a newbie in the chat. Okay, so now. Throws me off. Now he's thrown me off what I was actually talking about because I was explained about the CIA. I know about it. I don't want to talk about that today. Okay, now, so, So other women, when it comes to, there is nothing lonelier than being the non-custodial, parent. Okay, well, I mean, we both had we technically had 50-50, but, the resident and non-resident parent. And there's nothing lonelier than that because not even women judge that because there's a lot of women who also wish that they'd done that. So they project a lot of their shit onto you. There's just so much stigma around being a mother and the weekend parent post-divorce. And I did the right thing. I came back here. I came back to Perth. I did the right thing. But at the same time, it's cost me my career, okay? And also this other stuff, talking about, like, the only outlet was really the internet and the ability to, create content. And then when that got shut off for making the fatal mistake of defending Megan Murphy against her ban from Twitter, because I saw that Jessica Yaniv was using, bot armies and manipulating the algorithm to get her banned, and on a technicality, and that Twitter weren't listening because they had, their systems were so fucked up. And I made the mistake of going, you know what, this isn't right. And, again, I made choices at the time that in retrospect, with the passage of time, I wish I'd not underestimated it, and I wish I'd handled the issue with a little more care. But I thought it was there's that flag. I didn't do it because I thought it was easy. I did it because I thought it was easy, or be easy. I love that. Like it's very much plays to that, which is I did it because I thought it was easy, and now I'm in it. And now I've, sort of out of that, and I'm kind of I'm taking stock of all of my career, and I'm going, well, what was all that for? I'm watching sort of be overlooked for something like that, that VP role at Twitter, where I go, I'm a natural fit for this role, but I'm not going to, I haven't been able to build or grow or get connections in any way because of my involvement or good faith defense 5 years ago of this thing. Okay. I haven't been able to go corporate because of my footprint, because I've been talking about these things. And it's like, well, because I was, it comes back to the beginning of the chat, this idea that people make choices with the options they have available to them in front of them, and they can't necessarily see where the pieces fit. This is what hindsight bias is, which is that everything makes sense in retrospect. Seeing things forward is a lot harder, and it's something that I'm a lot better at than other people. Seeing what's coming in, the next few years in tech in particular is something that I'm excellent at. Everyone's an expert in hindsight because it happened, okay? It's the same thing like my whole area. Like I'm seeing all these people just suddenly like experts on, culture war stuff, and that it's just, all this commentary that is somewhat they're talking about this stuff like it's obvious, when it wasn't obvious 5 years ago. There were people who stuck their necks out talking about these problems, especially with astroturfing and rainbow washing and woke washing and all of these sort of corporate stuff. Like even today, there's high profile people who don't even know the basics around the IP rights and copyright issues around the rainbow flag versus the progress flag. The progress flag has a commercial license attached to it, which is why they use it, because it's a fucking business expense, because they can write it off. They can, it's like, well, they're not going to use something that's open for free. Some will. But then eventually, because it's a write-off, people, because they have budget, they're burning their budget on that flag. It's obvious. You can't ignore capitalism and the way capitalism operates, which is that they just throw money at it. It's a license fee. It's a way for corporations to just give money to, and to get a license for, that, again, that's the use of that flag it's a Creative Commons license, which means that all commercial licenses, and that's why companies use it, because there's a license attached to it. Okay. And it's like, well, from an accounting point of view, it's a cost for the business, and therefore it's a write-off. That's part of their fucking, we did good today. Like, while they like fuck everyone for their resources. Like it's obvious, okay? But people still don't know these things. And it's obvious to me. It's been obvious to me for years. And, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, everyone in retrospect is like, an expert on CIA or expert on these things. It's like, well, yeah, but not many people are predicting the future or, based on these things. And so having to go back and forth, right? And so it's like, somehow I've been lost in all of this, and it pisses me off because I actually would probably, I reckon I'd take that. I don't know if I want to work at Twitter, but a role like that where, spotting those propaganda campaigns is, that's basically what reverse engineering all that shit and how it works and how people are manipulating these systems has been my full-time fucking thing for 5 years, how to navigate these things in a way that, keeps everyone happy and fair. But, unfortunately, part of me is like, and then I had that interaction today with my son who doesn't know that I know stuff because, my whole world outside of, again, that's just a teenager thing where, oh my God, my mum's a human being. Wow. But also the same thing. It's like, but it's symptomatic of my career, which is It's not so much the things I have accomplished, it's the things that I've given up. And at some point someone goes, and I think that that's the thing that people don't realize when they're talking about this sort of diversity, inclusion bullshit and equity and all those sorts of things, which is that is a real thing. That is a real problem, which is the fact that you want people to have maximal choice. You don't want choice to be an illusion. You don't want choice to be under coercion. I don't want people to work. One of my things about like female board members, right? So, I've obviously reached a point in my career where I was at sort of executive level, okay? When I was hired, I was at that level up until everything changed and I decided to open my big fat mouth about everything. But, I was sort of at that level. And I can't remember what else. Oh, yeah. So female. And, and I remember having a lot of these conversations at sort of women in tech events about, quotas, particularly for women. And I'm like, I don't want to be on a board because I'm a woman. I want to be on a board because I'm good at what I do. And, because it's always these guys always have a reason to dismiss you. And I've been dismissed and like mansplained and talked over and fucking, all these things my whole life and my whole career. I have been like, Paul will tell you this, which is like sitting in a meeting with me where I'm like the boss and they will just be addressing him. Okay. Even my surgeon the other day talking to my husband. So talking through me like I'm fucking invisible. And then like, it's just like, Paul's just like, I don't know, ask her. She's the one that spoke. Like that's just the normal like life for a woman in tech, which is being spoken over, explained like obvious 101 shit. Oh my God, the CIA does stuff. Sorry to pick on you, Jim, but like, fuck, it's a good example. Oh my God, stuff that is easily like discoverable by anybody remotely curious in stuff. Taya knows about it. Yeah, I know it about it at this level. Okay. It's like, bring me something that's advanced. And that's all I'm saying. It's all in good fun. But at the same time, it's like, it's part of my frustration, which is like, oh my God, do you know this thing that everyone knows? Yeah. Do you know this baseline thing that pretty much everyone knows? Yeah. I know a lot of the stuff that no one knows as well. And so, but anyway, so it's just like, anyway, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be on a board because I'm a fucking woman. Like, I'll take the quota, but I also know that the second that they have quotas, everything that you say is going to be like deemed to be not credible because they reckon that, men just don't like hearing women talk. Men just cannot bear women talking without their tits out or without like something else. Like men are transactional when it comes to women speaking. They just shut off. And again, it's just normal to do that. And I get like, what the fuck? Deal with your mummy issues. Seriously, I'm speaking. It's like Americans with Australian accents. My God, if they say one more fucking time, you're saying something like legitimate and serious and high ranking and like actually contributing to the conversation. And then they go, your accent. Oh my God, like using me like I'm a fucking, get fucked. Anyway. Hang on. Is Stream Elephants lagging the video? Maybe. Yeah, again, I don't have money for tech. I can't deal with it. I'm going to get lags or I'm not. I just can't. I can't. I've got frame drops. There's not much I can do about it. I'm sorry. It is recording, so that's all I can do. Anyway, because apparently I don't know what this is. It comes back to my career shit. The only thing I've got is courses and I can't promote my courses. I can't apply for a job at fucking any tech company. I can't apply anywhere. And it's like, because I'm stuck and it's like, what the fuck do I do with my life? I have got so many degrees. I've worked fucking so many things. I have a wealth of experience. I know shit. I've turned down so many fucking jobs because I wasn't able to go to them because of my fucking kids. And it's just like, anyway. Oh, we've got some red. We got some red. That's all right. We're having some lags today. That's okay. I'll close Edge down, see how that goes. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. Anyway, can't do anything. Need a new computer, the usual shit. And even I need a new work computer. Even for this one, it's like it's too much. So it is what it is. But again, I made choices. But that's the thing. It's interesting because I was just like, oh yeah, I should try YouTube. I'm going to give YouTube a go. I'm not going to talk about YouTube unless I know how YouTube works and what it does. And that's how I started. I was just sort of just like, because I don't go round, and I don't, I go through, and it takes me longer to go through, but I come out with a more rounded sense of what's going on, and I actually know what I'm talking about at the other side of it. So now I know what's actually involved. I know what processes you need to go through. I know what the load is. I know what things cost to make, because a big part of like understanding and reverse engineering who's funded with dark money and who isn't is when you know that the end product. When you watch on YouTube, when you understand what the cost involved is versus the income they seem to be making, versus you can do some maths behind that by reverse engineering it and going, okay, well, they're being funded, because that's a big thing on social media at the moment, which is funding. The military do a big thing of this, like military recruitment on TikTok, why they're funding influencers to talk about joining the army. They encourage military people who are posted overseas to use TikTok and use social media, but they're not allowed to say it. They're only allowed to do it in a positive light and do sort of lifestyle fucking marketing for the army, right? For Gen Z and stuff. Like, this is a known thing. And so that's why when I study astroturfing and stuff, being aware of this, but you can't make a claim that like people on YouTube are being funded to do dodgy shit if you don't know what the actual effort is involved. And I'd use myself to sit and go, okay, well, I've got a lot of skills. I know what to do. I've got production skills. All right, let's learn it. Let's see how long it takes, see what it costs, see what the effort is, and go from there. So, and that's what I do. And I really thought that me going through would actually count for something, but it turns out that people just don't care, and it's disappointing. So anyway. So, but again, when I say don't have kids, I'm not saying that I don't love my kids or I don't, but I'm saying that they are an anvil on your, they're what's the thing called? Shackles, around your fucking ankles professionally, and I think that's just a fact, and especially post-divorce. Like all these women on LinkedIn who are like, they've got one toddler, and they're, it's like, well, until you go through a divorce and you have to do shared parenting, and he sets the courts against you, and you have to come back in order to, like, not be seen as an abandoned parent, when you actually had a whole fucking conversation about how you're going to go and work over there and try and make it work, and then come back every fucking month like I did, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then he turns around and, like, uses that as a weapon against you. These things happen. I couldn't have foreseen that. Could I have foreseen that? No. Unless you got some dickhead on the internet who's like, well, you should have married the right person. Yeah, I should have, shouldn't I? But I didn't. That's the difference. Like, this whole shoulda. It's like, well, no, there's no point talking about what you should have done. There's no point saying I shouldn't have had kids. I do have kids. That's how it is. But what I would like to do is design a world that actually, is more accommodating of things as they are, not fucking idealized versions of a family, idealized versions of fucking economics, idealized versions of this fucking meritocracy and dream that doesn't actually fucking exist, especially for women and minorities. And, just fucking cut the shit and just focus on what's actually going on, and just, fucking hell. Like, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, that was all I wanted to talk about today. Can't see the chats now, so I don't know. Anyway, I can see them if they pop up now, but I can't see them on a browser, so I can only see them from here, from the screen. But that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to show up and do a quick stream, and obviously performance is not great today, so I'm going to leave it, and I've got too much to do. But I am launching. I have got the checkout flow and the courses ready almost, and but again, because because I'm actually a good fucking designer and developer on top of everything else, I'm building and developing my own. I'm building it myself. So yeah, you didn't break the chat. You just my computer wasn't performing with the browser open, so I'm running. This is a 2011 iMac, It's not my main laptop, but the battery's dead on that one, and that keeps fucking dying randomly. So I need a new computer or the laptop to move to be my streaming machine, but then I need a work machine. So yeah. Yes, I've considered all of the things. The fact that it works is a testament to my abilities. I am it's limping to the end. But yeah, so but like I think this whole work from home thing is like this enabled me. And there was a brief window there where we had fun and it was possible, but it's closed. That window is closed. And now, unless you're doing sort of tech support or moderation or something at a lower, unless you're willing to accept less money for at a lower role for more hours for shit pay, to work remotely, no one's like, it's amazing that we came through the pandemic with this idea. Like there are benefits to working in the office, yes, but at the same time, like you close off whole portions of of the marketplace by like that discriminate. It is like there is an indirect discrimination that occurs, right? So I put up with you because you're a patron, because you give me money. I'm kidding. Because we're friends and because I like your wife. I'm kidding. Mostly because I put up with it mostly because I don't fucking see it while I'm streaming because I go off on a tangent and I don't pay attention. It's like we'll watch it back and Paul will be sitting there laughing at the chat and I'm like, I see it the first time he does and everyone else. Here we go. But I have set up the checkout and stuff. My eyes, oh my God, they're on fire. Oh, fuck. Anyway, I'm so glad I've got a sort of red, my eyes are redder than they look because I've got a red filter somewhat on the skin there to hide some of my redness. But anyway. Oh God. Anyway, I'm gonna skedaddle. I just wanted to talk about that because that exchange was very strange because, I do sit here and I go, what's it fucking for? Like, I don't know what's next for me other than trying to sell courses. But the thing is, then you're in this trap where to sell the courses, you're now having to fucking sell courses online. Like, who needs that shit? Like, who's going to take a course on this? Like, the people that need it don't think they need it. Okay, they unfortunately, but I'll chip away at it. I'll call in every favor that I can and do some word of mouth. I'm not going to do online marketing with this stuff because it's just not going to get cut through. I don't have the reach anymore. Maybe Facebook. I think Facebook might work. And also, I'm going to talk about P92 when I'm trying to get access to P92. But yeah, I don't have the sway that I used to. P92 is Facebook's Twitter clone, by the way. I'm trying to figure out how I can get access to that because I do have a good-ish relationship with Facebook, but I'm just trying to figure it out. That some of these things take time, but anyway, I think it's time for me to go. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Sorry, Jim. You'll find that when I'm on stream, I will, because obviously when you gotta keep talking to a camera. Remember, I'm in my office. Like there's lots of like I'm on my own in here. I'm not sitting here with people, and I am trying to be on camera, and I will just skim read the chat. And so I will just sort of sometimes my heuristic will break and I'll just go, oh yeah, you got to make snap judgments. So sometimes, it can be a little crazy, but would you like to buy a course on selling courses? There is actually a bunch of people that do that and they make millions of dollars building an MLM basically. Well, that's the MLM model that like, that was sort of very early on something that I fought actively, was actually the fact that they were using a lot of these MLM practices to sell coaching courses and stuff, and duping people into paying, $10,000 for an intensive sales training program and stuff like that, so that they could sell courses for like coaching and all that sort of shit. And that became like this sort of Ponzi scheme. And I interviewed I actually was approached for a role for a company that did that, and I had an ethical problem with what they were doing. And so again, I know all of these things. It's just it just seems, maybe it's just not clear where the future is. But I just, I've got to find a way to exist here with the internet being my only outlet, but all my reach is gone. Because normally I could make it work, but because my reach is gone, through no fault of my own, and it's just the landscape has changed. I need to reevaluate like what my options are. It's like, what do I do? Do I just stop tech? Do I just leave? Because I can't do content. Like I'll go fucked into oblivion for no reason. I don't have the resources to do the things that I need to do, like, because I'm used to obviously working with, I know what to do. I know how to execute these sorts of campaigns, but I don't have the resources to do it because I won't use interns and I won't use, various things. It's like, it's all on me, but I've got to pay my bills. I've got to do things like that. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do? So, I'll always make the choice. I make the choices that are in front of me, and they're not ideal choices, but, at the end of the day, like, there's not much I can do other than just keep soldiering on and keep going and keep trying to make different choices. But there's only so much that I can blame on myself. At some point, I need to be met, halfway and be given an opportunity to actually fucking do something without some dipshit like gaslighting people into thinking that everything is an equal choice between a bro who's been able to show up at the office for 14 hours a day with someone who cleans up his skid marks and looks after his kids and cooks for him, and like someone who is, tethered to a town that is bullshit and stuck here because of, various reasons, because she made one shitty choice to have children. The choice that Elon Musk wants people to make, by the way. That choice. He doesn't care about people who had children, because if he did, he would reward those that sacrificed things to have children and not have a work in the office policy and support remote work. He doesn't want you to have children. He wants women to not, anyway, don't get me fucking started. He wants his bro, it's like, no, there's people perfectly willing to do the shit, but you won't give him a look in at all. You're just, yeah. That's one way to get yourself laid when you're a fucking nerd, isn't it? Anyway, whatever, who cares? Anyway, I don't know what to do. I'm going to try and sell these courses, and I'm hoping that people will buy them. But again, it's a matter of like, knowing which thing people want, because I need to be targeted in the way that I promote it. I can't afford to waste money promoting it. And I can't afford to waste time and money because I need to fucking, all these things. It's bullshit. All these people that get paid millions of fucking dollars to pretend to be a YouTuber for fucking, and it's like, I can't even like do my actual work for any real money. It's bullshit. Anyway, life's not fair, Taya. We know. Hey, this was basically an hour of life's not fair, Taya. I could have told you that, but I get it. I find it hard to accept. There's got to be more to life than this for me, because I did all the right things. I'm like, all right, well, what do you want me to do? Okay, get a law degree? Okay, I'll go do that too. All right. What do you want me to do? Okay, I'll do that then. Nah, that wasn't it. Okay, cool. What should I do? All right, well, maybe I should contact people and say that, nah. It's like dead end after dead end. It's just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, don't have kittens. Anyway, Yeah, life's not fair. He mansplained to her. Exactly. He said life's not fair. There was that one time when I had to clean my own laundry and feed my own kids, and I fucking, yep, it was really hard. Yeah, life's not fair, he said. Yeah, life's not, there was that one time when I fucking felt minimized. Like, Jesus Christ, being fucking ignored and minimized and talked over is like a normal part of my fucking day. It's like I have to say things 7 different ways. And it's like I outrank most fucking dudes in tech. Like most of the, especially these fucking young dipshits who don't know like what we've come out of, you know, like in terms of like they're built off the backs of people like me over the years and my IP and like the hard yards, and then they just turn around and start splaining shit that I came up with. Oh my God. Anyway, like that the CIA fucks with the internet. No shit. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Thanks for your precious life seconds. Become a patron. Give me money. If you give me money, then, you know, it makes things a little easier. But I'm a bit over it, but we'll see how we go. To be honest, I want to just fuck off out of here when we're at that age where it's like, it could be done from now on because my kids are older, but, you know, obviously my son would have to come with me, but, you know, because he's not ready, but, you know, he would, yeah. Anyway, I reckon we could figure it out, but then I'm too old. See, the thing is that now I'm too old for tech jobs because I'm in my mid-40s and they don't listen to women in their mid-40s. So especially women who spent 20 years dedicating their life to this, but they didn't go to corporate. Well, they turned down all the corporate opportunities. If I'd known that being uncorporate or anti-corporate and wanting to stay solo was going to be such a burden on my career, I would have made different choices. I would have not had kids and I would have just gone and done the boring thing. But I didn't. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way to make it work. But yeah, I'm so fucking sick of these dickheads though. Oh, you know, merit. Yeah, you try living in a town that only fucking values you if you dig shit out of the ground. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm going to go. Love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Stuff. Bye.